named Bell South. Exactly what you'd expect from one of the leading communications companies in the world. Bell South. Everything you expect from a leader.
Coming up next, join us for Book Notes. In this segment, we will spend an hour with author William Lutz. He will talk about his book titled Doublespeak. This book deals with the ways languages are used to deceive.
William Lutz, what is Doublespeak?
Doublespeak is language designed to evade responsibility, make the unpleasant appear pleasant, the unattractive appear attractive. Basically, it's language that pretends to communicate, but really doesn't. It is language designed to mislead while pretending not to.
Is it done consciously?
Oh, yes, very consciously. Doublespeak is not a slip of the tongue or a mistaken use of language. It's exactly the opposite. It is language used by people who are very intelligent and very sophisticated in the use of language and know that you can do an awful lot with language.
Who's the worst offender?
In sheer bulk?
Yes.
Sheer numbers of examples? The government. If we count government from the local level all the way up to the federal level, I had to stop writing the chapter on government doublespeak. It was going to take over the whole book. But interestingly enough, and this was a revelation in doing the book, about a half a step behind comes business with a tremendous amount of doublespeak.
How long has the government been using doublespeak?
I think of government as the third oldest profession, and probably from the moment government was instituted, doublespeak came with it. I cite examples from the 5th century BC in Greece, Julius Caesar, when he pacified Gaul. Of course, Nazi Germany thrived on doublespeak. So it's been around for quite a while.
When did you first get interested in this?
In 1978, I became head of the Committee on Public Doublespeak. And in 1980, I started editing the quarterly review of Doublespeak. And that's when I became very interested in it, simply because as editing, I have all the examples of doublespeak sent to me. And so I wade through them all.
What got you interested in it?
My interest in rhetoric. I did, in my PhD, I did work in rhetoric. And I was interested in rhetoric. And in 1977, I published a textbook called The Age of Communication, which was a little different at the time. I tried to examine the rhetoric of television, radio, the mass media, advertising, taking Aristotle's classical rhetoric and apply it to modern media. I had a lot of fun doing that, and as a result of that textbook, I was asked to join the committee, and I saw rhetoric and language coming all together in doublespeak in an interesting way.
Universities also have a problem with doublespeak, don't they?
Oh, yes. I continually bite the hand that feeds when I cite Rutgers, and at least every issue I have an example from Rutgers University. One of my favorite, we don't have a physical education department at Rutgers. We have a department of human kinetics.
Why?
Well, I also point out in my book that people in physical education have come up with all of these different terms because they've gone professional. They now have their own journals, so they have their own academic jargon. And as the dean at Minnesota, who wanted to change the name of his physical education school, said, we're not taken seriously unless we have a name like this. We can't get the grants. We can't publish the articles.
How long have you been at Rutgers?
Since 1971.
What do you teach?
I teach a variety of courses in the English department, but I teach rhetoric, linguistics, and some Victorian literature. And I also teach a survey course that's required of all students. We start with the Iliad and the Odyssey and work our way up.
Is there any example in history, I mean ancient history in literature, of doublespeak?
Yes, one I cite just as a passing example is Thucydides in the 5th century BC in the Peloponnesian War. During the war, there was a very vicious civil war in Athens at that time. And Thucydides points out that at that time, the very language itself became corrupted to their own ends. Acts of cowardice became acts of great bravery. Traitorous deeds towards friends became patriotic acts, and he cites the whole list. And it's interesting that Thucydides cites this corruption of language as the ultimate in horror that occurred during that Civil War.
Do you ever personally find yourself using doublespeak?
Oh, yeah. When I was head of the department, I had to engage in doublespeak. You have to write recommendations. You have to write personnel evaluation forms. I had to pitch for more money. And so you use the doublespeak of bureaucracy as anyone else. If I were a bureaucrat who would function within the bureaucracy using straight language, I wouldn't be taken seriously. It's a sort of ritualistic use of language.
Are you in this whole world of doublespeak because you want to get rid of it?
Oh, yes. I don't think you'll ever get rid of it. I don't think we can. It is inherent in the function of language, to use language as a weapon or as a tool to manipulate other people. However, I think there are two things we can do. First of all, we can all become much more aware of this language. We should be aware of it so that we can at least be defensive and defend ourselves so that we're not misled through it. But secondly, there are times when we simply cannot tolerate this language. When we talk about important public issues of national policy, we should not use doublespeak as a nation. We should not use it ourselves. We should not allow the politicians who are speaking to us to use it. Language that way can be terribly corrupting in a society and can mislead all of us. And in a democracy that depends upon the active participation of its citizens, it can lead to cynicism and resentment and a withdrawal from the political process.
Does that have anything to do with the reason why only 50% of the American people voted in 1988?
I have a hypothesis that I would love to test, and I hope sometime to be able to do that. I would love to be able to track the pervasiveness of doublespeak as it grew, along with the decline in voting. Because the reaction I get to doublespeak from a lot of readers of the Quarterly Review as they write to me is, well, of course I know this language. I see it all over the place. I see it all the time. But you know, what else can you expect from politicians? They all lie. They all use doublespeak. It is that cynicism which leads to there's nothing I can do about it, so people withdraw and pull back.
This book is in the bookstores.
Yes, it is.
It's $17.95.
Yes.
How'd you do this book?
I did the book. Somebody asked me, how long did it take you to write the book? I said it took me 10 years to research it and 6 months to write it. I sat down and tried to make sense out of all the doublespeak that I've been collecting, because there is a tendency to have a perception that it is scattered hither and yon. The function of the book is to gather it and focus it to show you that there is a pattern and a progression to this language. And I structured the book to have a lot of fun in the beginning and the humorous uses of doublespeak, but leading to the more important uses of doublespeak by government, the Pentagon, and the issues of nuclear war and peace, and how doublespeak corrupts that whole process.
A couple little things. How did you choose Harper & Row?
Actually, there were 2 or 3 publishers, and I chose Harper & Row because of the editor at Harper & Row, Hugh Van Dusen, who is one of the most respected editors in the profession. And it was someone I thought would understand the book and would help me focus it and guide it. And that's why I went with Harper & Row.
Did you name it?
Well, yes, I did. I had a whole bunch of titles. And I was advised not to call it doublespeak, to come up with some other kind of descriptive title, but I wanted to, because a lot of people aren't sure what they mean by doublespeak. So I put the subhead in there, from revenue enhancement to terminal living. People recognize that immediately. They may not be quite sure what doublespeak is, but boy, they know what revenue enhancement is and terminal living. They've seen enough of that language around.
Is it selling?
It's in the 4th printing.
What's that mean?
It means that they sold out the 1st printing, they sold out the 2nd printing, they sold out the 3rd printing, and they're into the 4th, and the bookstores can't keep it on the shelves. A lot of bookstores don't have it because it's back-ordered. They sell them as fast as they can get them in the stores.
How big is it printing?
Well, the 1st printing was 17,500. The 2nd and 3rd printings were 6,000 copies each, and I think the 3rd printing was bigger, but I'm not sure how much. I haven't found out how much that is. So it's at least another 6,000.
Have you had any feedback?
The feedback I've gotten from reviewers, which generally like the book, the only thing I've been faulted for is my humor. I guess I'm a little too funny at times for their taste. Otherwise, the response from the press has been interesting. An awful lot of reporters. Associated Press did 2 stories on the book. There were wire press stories in England, and you can't even buy the book in England, and I've done interviews with the